So next up, let's take a look at the plank, and we'll look at two variations of this, both on the elbows and on the forearms. They're both useful. If you have a strong preference for one, I'd say go with it, but then every once in a while, mix it up. They're going to hit slightly different muscles through the torso just based on the change of elbow position. So I'm going to have Will come down into a plank, and why don't we start up on the hands. So Will's up. And the short version here is that Will's got a straight line from his shoulder to his hip to his ankle. But there's actually a little bit of a rounding of his mid-back, and his tailbone is slightly tucked under. I can see from right here that Will's got his glute squeezed, which is great. And this rounded upper body is actually really helpful for ensuring that we have a ton of strength coming from those low abs. In fact, I can see Will starting to twitch. And it's not that he's weak, is he's actually doing a whole lot of work. Go ahead and rest. Bring your knees down for a second. So our goal with the plank is not to work up to a 5-minute plank or a 10-minute plank or a 7-hour plank. We're not trying to set world records here. Rather, we want to make it really effective by having as much muscular engagement as we can. So I'm going to have Will come back to that standard on his hand plank, and then I'm going to walk through a few things that I'd like you guys to be looking for. Yep, back here. Thank you. So Will's ankles are more or less above the ball of his foot. His heels are not back, which is great. His legs are straight. If you're really tight through the hamstring, you might actually bend your knees a little bit. That's fine. I don't want to see his tailbone jutting up behind him. Again, there's a nice fluid line, a nice smooth curve here. His shoulders are directly over his wrists. If he wanted to make this a little bit harder for himself, Will could actually lean forward onto his hands that way a little bit. And then what we're going to see is a lot more engagement through serratus anterior and down the sides of the waist. The last piece here, if someone were to come along, stay up for me, someone were to come along and wrap their fingers right in here and start to put a little bit of inward pressure on the sides of your waist, it ought to feel like there is something really solid and muscular and rock steady underneath there. Even if there's a little bit of body fat, underneath that body fat, we should be really strong through the obliques. Come on down for me. So we'll just call that plank number 1, which is up on our hands. Plank number 2, I'll have Will come down to his forearms and hopefully not make him stay quite as long this time. Everything is still true, right? We've still got pretty vertical line through the feet. A little bit of curve through the upper back. His tailbone is tucked under. There's a flat shelf right here over his glutes. His elbows are now under his shoulders. And notice that his hands are flat on the ground. He's not clasping. This actually makes it a lot harder on his shoulders and on his chest, which is great because we want to get as much bang for the buck. Will, come on down. And that is our plank hold in 2 different variations. Thanks.